Hello everybody, Christopher Beast here, and I'm back with yet another frequency video. For all of you that did not see my frequency of 50 rounds video, I highly suggest you check it out. You won't have to understand this video, as I will be explaining almost everything, but it does give you an idea of what a smaller sample size taken earlier in the season resulted in, compared to a larger sample size taken later in the season. I'm going to first explain why understanding statistics like this is important. Statistics like this can be used to see which weapons are being underused and which weapons are being overused, which can help us see which weapons are broken or which weapons are underpowered. Again, you can't figure anything out with one statistic. You do need more than one and conflicting statistics to truly make a conclusion about something. You can't just, slam one statistic over and over and over again. It's just not how life works. But understanding multiple statistics, such as this, will help you get a broader idea of exactly how the Vigor as a game works balance-wise. Something that we as a player without statistics like this can't really get a solid finger on, besides our subjective opinions on how certain guns work. But with my little rant on why this is important over, let's get straight into these numbers. We're going to start off with the top 4 guns, and then we're going to move into what looks like the largest percentage changes and what could have caused them. And then I'm going to finish up this section with what guns I think the statistics are showing us need some love and need something to get them back into the loot pool. Alright, so let's start off with the top 4 guns. Top 4 guns hasn't really changed. The AKM, the M16, the SG1, and the Thompson. AKM has gained a percent. It went from 10% of all loadouts to 11%. This change isn't enough to really say anything. That's going to be same true with the M16 and Thompson. Both went down a percent, but that isn't enough of a change for anyone to be sitting down and saying, wow, big meta changes here, something's moving. There's really no solid evidence that there's any movement among the top 4 weapons. The SG1 is exactly where it was at the end of the last percentage, 7%. It's still 7%. I don't think it's even gone down in the decimal places. And that to me just shows the people who are using SG1s in the beginning of the sample are still using them to no one's surprise. That's not a bad thing. That's not a good thing. It's just, nothing's changed. So the top 4 guns are relatively still the same. Nothing really interesting to see there. What we're going to want to see in the future is, does that change next season? We're going to have to see what happens there. So moving on to large changes between the two datasets, we can't actually notice very many, and that's a good thing. That's not something we should be freaking out about. The fact that 2 datasets are similar when they're taken in the same season and are supposed to be similar, that's a good thing. We're trying to find consistency here so we can make patterns and then make conclusions off those patterns. And the fact that there is consistency means that the patterns shown by the original chart and this one could be considered somewhat frequent. They can be considered an actual pattern. Again, there's going to be people who I totally understand, by the way, if you think this way, that me just pulling 100 rounds and what I get in it isn't enough data to prove anything. That's fine. But if you do think this is enough, then proving consistency between the 50 and the 100 is a good, justification for your data. But moving on to what did change, the Silver Pigeon dropped a percent, not a big deal. The M1911 dropped a percent, not a huge deal. Moving on to something that actually matters, the Scorpion gained 3 percent points, which is a bit weird. It is definitely the strangest piece of data on the graph. Keeping in mind the Scorpion's a green weapon, which means, it's just weird that a green weapon would jump so high when green weapons are so unpopular right now. But yeah, Scorpion jumped up to 4%, which is also a pretty high percent point for a gun, relatively speaking. Other things that changed, the Gal dropped a percent. I think the Gal dropping percent is something I can explain. While I can't explain what the fuck happened with the Scorpion, I can explain what's happening with the Gal. Early season, you have a lot of people who are using it because they want to experiment with it. They want to try it out. The number of people who are in that category is going to keep dropping. If I kept doing this up until the day the season ends, which I may or may not, depends what I decide to do, we're going to see the gal percentage most likely continue to drop as less people are going to use it as we approach the end of the season, because they have already tried it, they have decided that they probably don't like it. The reason I say they don't like it is not because the gal's bad. I say that because due to the number of guns in the game, the average number of percentage for each gun should be around 2.2%. So the gal should be around where it's supposed to be, but most guns are actually going to be less than 2.2%. They're going to be around 1% because we have massive guns like the AK and the M16 that take up large chunks of the percent. Confusing math stuff, I know. But what I'm saying is most likely trends will show the gal and any other gun that came from this season continuing to lose percent. Now, that's not exactly a good thing when we look at the KS-23. KS-23 is at 1% already. Extremely unpopular gun. SWSH is at 2%. It's still at 2%. Speaking of guns that are brand new on the stat sheet, though, the VSS is brand new. Wasn't on the stat sheet previously. Nobody had used it. It is now at 1%. The SVD, also brand new on the stat sheet, 1%. And the RPK RPK is not new, but the RPK actually, it says 1% between the both of these, but I want to note that the RPK frequency-wise seemed to be, like, higher. It's in the higher part of 1%. It's like 1.8 something. I wanted to note that because the RPK has been seeing a weird resurgence lately. Another gun, MG3. I don't think that was on the original chart. Well, it's back. People used it. There was a couple other guns that were like weird wild balls that just didn't exist in the original data set and were only first seen in the 100 round. But most of those aren't important for statistic matters, because if they're that rare, that means really they're not doing very well. So that's where we get into the final part of this section, because I do want to also go and cover the rarities. What guns do I think, based off just this data alone, and again, I know I said earlier you're not supposed to make conclusions based off data alone, but for the sake of doing it just to do it, what guns do I think need a change? Shotguns, relatively speaking, we have 1% in the IZH, we have 3% in the Pigeon, we have 1% in the KS-23. Like, those are horrible percentages. In total, the 3 shotguns make up 5% of all weapons used. It's when the KS-23 is spawning in safe. I mean, people have steady access to that thing. That's when the Pigeon and the IZH are some of the earliest starter guns people are going to be getting their hands on. Still, they can't muster a very large percentile. Next group of guns, MMGs. 249s are not even a percent yet. They have not gotten that high yet. KD62 is not even a percent yet. It's pretty bad when it comes to MMGs. I'm trying to find what their total percent would be. It's not high. MG3, I think, is the highest of them. Yeah, MG3 is 1%. I think you get the point. I don't think any of the others actually have a percentile. I don't think I need to tell you, though, that MGs are underpowered. The fact they're making up such a smidge of the loot quantity proves that the MMG nerfs that affected recoil and stuff honestly may not have been needed. I think the prone mechanic was enough to curtail MMG usage. This is just extra, doing all that recoil changes that hit back in 4.0, or it might have been 3.0. Other things, it seems like snipers are in a not moving stance, but they're also in another stance that's not doing as well as ARs and SMGs. AR and SMGs make up so much of the percentile, which is understandable. So moving on from which guns I think need buffs, and again, you guys can see the data on screen now. You guys can make your own conclusions if you disagree with my own. We can move into the rarities. So with the rarities, we have an interesting story. The 50% white has not changed at all. It's pretty much like whatever guns were in the white and got changed percentage-wise just rotated with each other. Now what did change, quite interestingly, was the percentages between blue, gold, and green. Actually, not gold. I'm wrong. It's just blue and green. So blue was 16% in the last data search, and green was 7. Blue in this one is 13 and 10. So what caused this very abrupt shift from green, where it's suddenly now an actual percentage? It's pretty simple. It's the fucking Scorpion. Scorpion is a wild ball that I can't explain and has now become extremely popular at the end of the season, that it just caused a green shift, more people using green weapons. It's just fucking weird, in my opinion, but you can take whatever the hell you want from this data. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Maybe you learned something, maybe you didn't, maybe you think I'm a fucking crazy ass. I can tell you I will try my hardest to do this once more time in the season, probably around 200 to 300 rounds for the end of the season. It might not happen. I have no promises. But until then, see you all next time.